Welcome back to yet another session with me. Today we are going to pick up a story. In fact, it's a play, not a story. And this play has been written by Miles Mellison. Miles Mellison was an English actor, a dramatist, and was quite popular as an actor in British comedy films of the 1930s to 1960s. Mellison also wrote the screenplay of many films. The play Michael is Mellison's adaptation of Leo Tolstoy's short stories, What Men Live By. Now, this is a story which has a few characters. Let's quickly name those characters first and foremost. We have Simon in this. Simon is the father. Further, we have Matryona. We have Matryona. We will quickly come up with the correct spelling of Matryona. Matryona is the mother. And we also have their daughter, Anioska. Okay. Further, we have Michael. Yes, this is one character which is the most important character of this play, and that's Michael. Michael was a vagabond. I'll just explain to you all what actually a vagabond is. But let me finish with the characters of the play first, and then I'll come up with the description of what these people are. We also had in this yet another character is a nobleman. We have a nobleman here and his servant. Okay, and we have one more scene here which has a young lady actually, or a woman, and two children. These are the basic characters in this play. So let's just begin. But before we begin, let me tell you what a vagabond is. Vagabond is basically a person who roams around, a wanderer, kind of depending on people for food and shelter. Kind of a beggar, you can say. Okay. Let's begin with the play straight away. Somebody speaking something, the next character speaking something else. So first scene, let's see what happens in that. A poor peasant's hut. Person who is worker class. A poor peasant's hut. A peasant, a woman enters from out of doors carrying a water pail. She calls. Matryona, she is the mother. Now Matryona is speaking. What does she say? Anioska, Anioska, bring in those sticks you gathered for the fire. Anioska. Now, at once. Anioska puts the sticks by the fireplace. Matryona says, now light the fire, Anioska. Your father will soon be back from town. The child sits on the floor and begins to break up the sticks. Matryona begins mending a very ragged shirt. She starts repairing a very torn and tattered kind of a shirt. She starts repairing that. Anioska says, why has daddy gone to town? Matryona, to buy a warm sheepskin for winter. We have only one, and that's worn to tatters. It's torn. They had only one sheepskin. Now sheepskin is something that is worn to give warmth to the body. So that had to be purchased, and since they were not very well off, they didn't have much money to spend on their foodings itself, so they used to save the money for the whole year and then they could purchase something. So this year for the winters they planned to purchase a sheepskin because the one they had was already torn and tattered, so it was very, very cold and they could not keep themselves warmed up. Anioska says, why doesn't daddy go into the town and buy warm sheepskins more often? Matryona, what he earns goes on food. There's little use of going to town with no money to spend. Anioska, Has daddy got some money now? Matrona. Little. He has been making boots for the neighbors to save enough for one sheepskin. And he's got to collect most of it on his way to the town. That means Simon is going to the town, but he needs to collect the money from his neighbors for whom he has made those boots. So in return, he'll be taking the money, right? So he's a worker of like he's kind of a cobbler. He makes shoes. So he is going to give those shoes to the neighbors. In return, take the money, and the money that he collects, he'll go to town and buy a sheepskin with that. Anyoska. Who's he going to collect it from? Matriona. From the neighbors he's made boots for, silly. If only the dealer doesn't cheat him. That means if the dealer cheats him, then he will not get the money, right? So she tells her daughter that if the dealer does not cheat him, he'll get that money. He is much too simple. He should get a proper winter coat. It'll be better this winter than last. When he went out, he put on our one coat and I had to stay indoors. You can well imagine this is a poor family where they just have one warm cloth, something to wear, right? Now, if one person needs to move out of the house, that person wears it, so the other person has to stay back at home. They cannot afford that both of them move out with just one kind of warm cloth that they have. And Yuska suddenly, she says, "Here he comes. Here he comes. Here comes Daddy," in excitement, and rushes to meet him, but stops. Daddy isn't alone. There's somebody with him. Matriona. Who's that? What sort of a person is with him? Anyoska says, "He must be terribly cold. His arms are all bare, and his feet, he looks like a beggar." Now, the person who was with Simon, with father, Anyoska, the little daughter, is describing that person. How was that person? That person was, he must have been feeling terribly cold because his hands were bare and his feet were also bare, and he looks like a beggar. Matriona. A beggar? Has your father a sheepskin? Anyoska says, "No." Matriona. She hurries to the door. "No sheepskin? Nothing. And bringing a beggar home with him? It's as I feared." Angry. Here's a nice end to the year's work. Now mother is getting really angry. The whole year they saved the money, and this man comes back home with a beggar home and not the sheepskin. Here's a nice end to the year's work. My heart could break with disappointment. Now that poor mother, she's feeling so bad about it that they try to save every penny for this last moment, the last winters. They could buy something warm, but unfortunately they could not. Because now let's see why they could not. My heart could not break with disappointment. She turns to the child. Get off to bed. Now she is taking out her anger on that little girl. Anyoska, trying to keep back her tears, goes slowly into her room. One toils and toils, and he brings his good for nothing friends home with him. She stands and waits. Simon comes in. He holds the door open for someone else. Simon, he says, "Come in, friend, come in." A young man of about 18 enters. His face is beautiful, but has just a piece of coarse material like a mat tied around him. That means those jute bags kind of mat that you have, that's worn around him, and he does not have something proper warm to wear. He stands just inside the door, his head and eyes lowered. Simon says, "Come, friend, sit by the fire and warm yourself." He sets the bench nearer to the fire. "There, that's better than the snow outside. We'll have some supper." Now we have Simon, we have Matriona in the first scene, we have Anyoska, and we have Michael also. Okay. Now, these are the characters so far in the first scene going on, and the first scene tells us how this Michael came into their house. Now, that's better than the snow outside. We'll have some supper. Any supper for us, mother? Now, Simon is just referring to his lady as mother, Matriona. You shall have your supper when I have my sheepskin. Now, she is really angry that the whole year they saved every penny, and by the end of the year, he comes home with a beggar and not the sheepskin. So she tells him that you give me the sheepskin, I'll give you the supper. You shall have your supper when I have my sheepskin. Simon. Oh, come on, Matriona. That's a poor welcome. I couldn't get the skin. I called on neighbor Trifnoff on my way to the town, but he couldn't pay me what he owned. He hadn't the money. He hardly had enough bread for his wife and children. I couldn't force him, so we must go without it. Now, the actual reason for not bringing back a sheepskin was not the beggar, but it was that the place from where he was supposed to get back the money for the boots he had made for them, he did not get that. So, unfortunately, he could not go to town for buying that, right? But somewhere so far that we've heard the story, this play, we have come to know that Simon is a very nice hearted person. He feels very he feels very sympathetic towards people who are in need, and he tries, no matter what his levels are, whether he can himself feed himself or not, but he always prefers helping others out. That's somebody very, very nice. Matriona. You set out to buy sheepskin and you come back with nothing but a vagabond? Now, this is a person, a wanderer, a beggar. That's a vagabond, a tramp. And you ask for supper as if nothing had happened? There's only enough bread in the house for a day. That means whatever they eat, just a bread for the day, for that day that they have, they don't have any extra bread. We can't feed all in the country. Now, that's her anger that is coming out. She's actually not a person like that, but it is her anger, her poverty that is speaking up so much, because they just had bread for one day to eat. They do not have anything else. So she's getting angry that we have to feed so many in the country. We can't do that. Simon. Matriona, don't be rude. Matriona. Don't be rude? Indeed. You expect me to slave for another year, do you? Then you can get your supper and mind your own house. Now she's angry that I'm going to leave now, so you can have your supper and mind your own house. Mind your own house to a stranger. You are clothed like a beggar. Now she's turned towards Michael and she's speaking to him. You're clothed like a beggar, but your skin is white and your hands are smooth. Where do you come from? What do you want? The stranger shakes his head. Haven't you got a tongue in your head? Now that's just a way of telling a person that please speak out. A tongue in your head is just a phrase which tells that the person is not speaking, so she wants the person to come out with words, right? So, don't you have a tongue in your head? Simon. He hasn't spoken a word since I found him. Matriona. Found him? Where did you find him? Simon. By the roadside. I saw something on the ground, and when I went closer, I found him. With barely any clothes in the snow. I thought he might be dying of cold and want of food. So I lifted him up and put my cloak around him and brought him home. I questioned him, but he never spoke. Matriona looks at him still more curiously. Matriona. His skin's as white and as soft as a nobleman's. In the snow like that, it's a wonder he's alive. Well, we can't let him starve. Her voice is kinder. Now, after knowing the condition of this person who's been brought home by Simon, she starts feeling a little sorry for him now. So her voice is kinder. Sit here, you will be warmer here. She sets a chair for him nearer the fire so that she can reach the kettle. She fills a cup and gives it to him. Drink that. It'll warm you. He looks up at her, and when he takes it, suddenly she stares at him. Her voice is full of fear. Did you see, Simon? Did you see? What did they see? Simon, what is there to see, mother? Matryona, when I handed him the cup, he smiled at me. The strangest smile I've ever seen. He smiled as if the sun were behind his eyes. There's something very strange. Simon, strange or not, we can't let him starve. Give him the bread. Matryona gives him the bread. Matryona, and that's the last food in the house. Perhaps I can borrow a little from the neighbor. It's very dark. Come with me, Simon. So now Simon and Matryona, they leave Michael with the bread and they move towards the neighbor's house to ask for more food. They go out together. The stranger sits silently on the bench. From the inner room, the child's voice calls. Now Anyushka was made to go to bed, but now when she's calling from inside, the parents are not here. Who is here? Michael. This person, Michael. Or the person's name was Michael, which has not been disclosed so far, but yes, he was Michael. Anyushka, mother, mother, daddy, daddy. The child appears in the room. She observes a stranger. Slowly, she comes to him. She gives him a hand, which he takes. Then, climbing up to his lap, she rests her head against his shoulder. She feels very comfortable and very safe and secure with this person here. Well, that was scene 1 so far, where the entry of Michael was shown and how the little girl is attached in the end, how mother's heart changes towards this end of the scene here. Let's move on to scene number 2. 1 year later, in Simon's hut, Simon sits making shoes. Matryona is sewing. She's stitching, right? Simon says, It's a year ago since I brought Michael home. The luckiest day. It was so easy to teach Michael. And now no one sews boots so neatly and strongly in the entire district. People are coming a long way to have their boots sewn here. We shall soon be well off. Now, if a good product is being made, it's obvious people from everywhere, all around the town, they hear about it and they come towards this person and get their boots made. So once you have a good footfall of people coming in, it's then you have obviously more of profits with you. So that's why he says, we shall soon be well off. Matryona. It's seldom his bench is empty. Means wherever he sits to work, that bench is always full of some of the other work, some of the other shoes that he's making. He seems to be working without stopping, silently. It is strange. He only speaks when necessary, and he does not joke or laugh. And except just once, I have never seen him smile. So when did she see him smile? The first day when he had come, she had offered him the warm drink and bread. It was that time that she saw him first smile, and the only time she saw him smile. Do you know, Father, I often think something very strange will happen and we shall lose him. That's just you can say a sixth sense which catches. So this woman is saying, Matryona is saying that there is something strange and I feel we will lose him one day. Simon, I hope not. He is too good a workman. The door opens and Michael appears in a peasant's dress. He goes silently to his bench, begins to work. Then the bells of carriage sledge are heard outside. Now, from outside, the bells of the carriage horse cart, the carriage is heard from outside. So, Matryona has this tendency to peek out and then peep out quickly and then see what's happening outside. So, Matryona, she looks out and she says, "Oh, what a carriage! And beautiful horses and servants. It must belong to a great nobleman. It's stopping. The servants are getting down. The nobleman is getting out. He's coming here." She shuts the door in alarm. "Simon, a great nobleman is coming up our pathway." They wait anxiously. Michael continues working. There is a knock at the door. Matryona opens it timidly. She's a little nervous. A magnificently dressed noble walks in. The nobleman says, "Are you the master bootmaker?" Simon says, "I am, Your Excellency." Nobleman, calling from the door, "Fedka, bring the leather." Now, Fedka is the servant. So, a servant runs in with some leather. Look here, shoemaker. It's very expensive leather. It's foreign. It cost me 20 rubles. Simon shocked. 20 rubles? Where should I ever see leather like that? Nobleman, just so. You make it into boots for me. Well, remember whom you are to make them for. You must make me boots that will wear for a year. Means it has to be something so strong that for the entire year it is not spoiled. So you make me boots that will wear for a year. Take neither losing shape, it should not lose its shape, nor coming unsewn. Means its stitches should not be coming off either. You must make boots that will wear for a year, neither losing shape nor coming unsewn. If you can't do it, take the leather. If you can do it first he says, if you can do it, take the leather and cut it up. I warn you now, if you spoil my leather, I will have you put in prison. I will pay you 10 rubles if you do your work well. Will you do it? Yes, Your Excellency, I will do it. Now he's so excited, he's going to get a good amount of money for the boots that he's going to make. Michael rises from his seat. He stands gazing at the nobleman, staring at the nobleman. Matryona whispering, "Simon, look at Michael. He is smiling, as he did when he looked at me a year ago." So this was the second smile that Matryona could see on Michael's face. Nobleman, "What are you smiling at, you fool? Instead of standing there and smiling, sew my boots as I want them. But if the leather is spoiled, there is prison for you as well as for him. Come, Fedka." The nobleman and the servant go out. Simon, "It's wonderful leather." Now Simon is appreciating, he's seeing the leather and he says, "This is a wonderful material of the leather. This is really very, very nice. You must cut it, Michael, and take care how you cut. Wait now till I give you the measure." Now so he went to give the measure to Michael, but what happened? But without waiting for the measure, Michael folds the leather and cuts it boldly into 2 pieces. Now, this was something he had spoiled the leather because it was not in the correct measurement cut. It was not cut in the correct measurement. So Simon is going to get really angry. Simon, in a terrible state, "Michael, what have you done? The leather is spoiled. Oh God, we are ruined. We shall be taken to prison." Michael, never before have you made a mistake, and now your mistake has ruined us all. He examines what Michael has done. No boots in any way can be cut from that now. only soft slippers. The servant of the nobleman bursts back into the room. He is very nervous. The servant says, "My master no longer needs the boots. He is dead." Hardly had we started when he rolled over on the floor of the carriage, like a sack. "My mistress has sent me to tell you there is no longer need for the boots. But you are to use the leather to make soft slippers for the corpse." Now, corpse is the dead body, and it was the dead body of the nobleman. So, what Michael had actually done was correct. Slippers had to be made, soft slippers had to be made, so it was cut in that way. Simon, disbelievingly, "Soft slippers for the corpse?" Simon and Matryona stared at Michael, who sits down and starts to work on the slippers. Well, that was scene 2, where we have a nobleman coming in for getting his boots made. Coming up to scene 3. It is evening. Michael and Simon are at work. Agnieszka is playing with her toys. Matryona is busy with her household work, and there is a knock at the door. Matryona, "See who it is, Agnieszka." Agnieszka, "There is a lady with 2 little girls, and one of them has a bad leg." Now, this little girl, Agnieszka, actually cannot understand what is a good leg and what is a bad leg. She actually meant that there was something defected in the leg. She was handicapped, most probably. So she says she has a bad leg. The woman, she comes in and she says, "Good evening, good folk. I have come about some shoes for these little girls." Now she wants certain boots to be made, some shoes to be made for the girls. Simon, "We can do that. Michael is a master at the work." Michael stares at the 2 little girls. The woman, lifting the lame child on her lap, "Take the 2 measures from the little girl. Make 1 shoe of the lame foot and 3 of the sound one, and 2 pairs for the other little girl. They both have the same sized shoes. They are twins." Now, 2 girls, one this one, one this one. This one is perfectly fine. 2 sets of means 4 pieces. In fact, 2 pairs have to be made for this girl, and this girl also 2 pairs have to be made, but 1 foot is lame, so that measurement is going to be a little different. Okay, Simon says, as he takes the measurement, "How did it happen to her? She is such a pretty little girl. Was she born so?" The woman says, "No, her mother crushed her leg." That's just a way of saying it. It was actually not the mother crushing her leg, but maybe because of the problems, the poverty, that time, this lady says that her mother crushed her leg. Matryona says, "Aren't you their mother then?" The woman says, "No, they were strangers to me, but I adopted them. Their father was a woodcutter in the forest. When cutting down the trees one day, a tree fell across his body and crushed him. The same week, his wife gave birth to these 2 little girls. She was poor and alone. The next morning I went to see her. She was dead. The babies were left alone. I took the girls. Now they are the joy of my life." She rises and helps up the lame one. "Come, little ones, say goodbye. We should be back. Thank you and good night." Simon opening the door for her. "Good night to you." Matryona waves goodbye and comes back into the room. She looks at Michael. When she turns, Matryona, Michael is smiling. Simon amazed. Michael, we do not know and we are afraid. Only tell me this. Why does your face shine so? And why have you smiled only 3 times? Now, for the first time, Michael speaks up. Michael, light shines from me because I had been punished. And now I am forgiven. So every time the face shines, he has been forgiven for some kind of a punishment that has been given to him. I smiled 3 times because I was sent to learn 3 truths, and I have learnt them. When were those 3 moments when he smiled? He's telling us that. One, I learnt when your wife pitied me, and that is why I smiled the first time. The second, I learned when the rich man ordered the boots, and I smiled the second time. And now I have learnt the third truth, and I smiled the third time. Simon, with respect, tell me, Michael, who are you? What are you punished for? And what are these 3 truths you have learned? Michael, I was an angel in heaven and disobeyed God. He sent me to fetch a woman's soul who had just given birth to 2 little girls. She wept because her husband was dead, and if she died too, who would look after her babies? I listened to her and flew back. God sent me to the earth to learn the 3 truths. Now, what were those 3 truths? They were what dwells in man, what is not given to a man, and what men live by. He told me to return to heaven only after learning them. Well, I fell to earth. When I fell to earth, I was hungry, frozen, and in pain. Suddenly, I heard a man coming, but he frowned and passed me. Then you came, and I recognized the presence of God. You got me home. I met a woman. She wished to drive me out into the cold, but suddenly she changed. She brought me food, and when I looked at her, I remembered my first lesson. What was it? Learn what dwells in a man, and I understood that in a man dwells love. Now, that is what stays in a man. It is love that stays in a man. And I smiled the first time. Isn't that really beautiful? What actually stays in a man is the love for different things. After a year, a man came to order boots. He soon died, and I remembered my second lesson. What was that? Learn what is not given to man. It is not given to man to know his own needs. A man himself does not know what actually he needs. Currently, that man needed boots, but all of a sudden he died. So the needs changed. What he wanted, now it was changed to soft slippers for his dead body. So that was the second thing. And I smiled the second time. A year passed, and there came little girl children with a woman. I heard how they had been kept alive, and I smiled the third time. I have learnt my third lesson. What men live by. It is love alone by which they live. If they do not have love inside them, they cannot feel for anybody, they cannot feel for themselves either. So that was the third lesson which he had learnt. Suddenly there is complete darkness. Then, when the light of the lamp seems to steal back into the room, Simon, Matryona, and Aniuska are alone in the cottage. So it's Michael who is back to his place in heaven because he had learned the 3 lessons of his life. I hope you all have enjoyed the play, learned lots of new things, learned to be a lot more compassionate towards others, have some people, have some sympathy for people who are in need of your love, and at times a little bit of help too. Well, that's it. Thank you so much. Goodbye.